My niece mocked my daughter's stammer in front of the whole room at her birthday party. Every adult laughed. I made a choice and I showed them all the door. That same night, my mother sent a text. "You're being ridiculous. Until you come and apologize. You are not welcome in this family." I wrote back one sentence. "Then I'll remove you from the trust account." She read it. She said nothing. She must have thought I was just upset. Clara had just turned 9. All she asked for was something quiet. A few cousins, some sandwiches, and a chocolate cake with purple frosting. That was the whole wish. She's been working with a speech therapist for 2 years, and loud, chaotic spaces make her tense. So I kept the list short. Only the people I believed we could count on. My mom, my brother Derek, his wife Sandra, and their daughter Kayla, my sister Erin and her son. Safe people. Or so I thought. I was in the kitchen cutting fruit when I heard it. Not the kind of laughter that fills a room warmly. The kind that slices. I walked to the back door and looked through the glass. Kayla was standing in the middle of the yard with her arms out like she was performing, repeating phrases Clara had said that afternoon, distorting her face, stretching the words into something grotesque. The other children were howling. Clara stood at the edge of the grass, arms at her sides, completely still, staring at nothing. I opened the door. I told Clara to come inside. She did. I said nothing to anyone else. Not yet. I let them drift back. In on their own time, finishing their cups, wrapping up their conversations. When they were all gathered in the kitchen, I told them the party was finished. I told them why. Derek laughed and said I needed to relax. Erin said Kayla was just being a kid. Sandra tilted her head and said, "She's always been a little sensitive." Hasn't she? My mother exhaled slowly and told me I'd always made everything into a scene. No one looked at Clara. Not one of them said her name. I asked them to leave. They acted injured by it, as though I had done something to them. By that evening, I thought at least one of them might reach out, just to acknowledge it. But the only message that arrived was from my mother. "You're being ridiculous. Until you come and apologize. You are not welcome in this family." I sat with that for a long time. Then I typed back, "Then I'll remove you from the trust account." No explanation, no softening, just the truth. She read it immediately, never answered. She assumed I was running hot and would cool down by morning. She assumed, like she always had, that I was the one who broke first. What she forgot was who I had become after my father passed. What she forgot was exactly how everything was arranged. My father built the family trust before he got sick. He didn't hand that responsibility to Derek. He didn't hand it to lawyers he didn't know. He handed it to me. Because I was there. I sat beside him during the hard months while my brother and sister called to ask questions about the estate from comfortable distances. When the trust was finalized, I was named sole trustee. Every distribution, every account, every decision ran through me. They all forgot that until I reminded them. The morning after the party, I opened my laptop. My mother's monthly distribution was scheduled for the first of the month, same as always. I paused it. One click. Not canceled, just suspended long enough to make things clear. I waited. By noon, she had called 4 times. I let everyone go to voicemail. By mid-afternoon, she texted, "What is happening? You can't be serious right now. Grow up, Rachel." I read it, forwarded it to our family attorney with a single line. "Please confirm that as sole trustee, I have the authority to suspend a beneficiary's distribution due to conduct that damages the family's welfare." He replied within 15 minutes.
Yes.
Full discretion. Good, I wasn't stopping with my mother. I pulled up Derek's account. Same man who stood in my kitchen 2 days earlier and laughed out loud while his daughter humiliated mine. His arrangement with the trust wasn't monthly payments. It was a business credit line the trust co-signed. I contacted the bank directly and submitted a formal notice revoking the trust's backing of that line. Without it, he had 30 days to restructure or face default. I didn't tell him. Then I looked at Erin's situation. She didn't receive distributions. She lived in a property my father had purchased decades ago and signed over to her use under one condition, his words. "As long as the family remains whole." She never believed I would apply that clause. She had let her son stand in that yard and laugh. So I called the property attorney and began the process of reclaiming the house. By midnight, 3 people who had laughed at a 9-year-old with a stammer were facing something they had never genuinely encountered before. Accountability. Then Derek texted, "What the hell is going on with my account?" I replied, "You should have thought about that before you laughed at a child with a speech disorder." He didn't respond. I knew that. Wasn't the end of it. It never is with them. 2 days later, Derek was at my front door. No call ahead. Just standing there in a rumpled jacket, his car still running at the curb, wearing the expression of a man who has just realized the ground under him isn't solid. I didn't invite him in. I stepped outside and pulled the door closed. He opened with, "You said what you needed to say." I let the silence sit. He shifted. Said his business would be in serious trouble if he couldn't cover the gap. Then he said what happened. At the party wasn't personal. That children act out. That Kayla didn't mean anything by it. I asked him if Kayla had apologized to Clara. He said nothing. I asked if he had. Still nothing. I told him the account wasn't being restored, and that unless both of them apologized directly and genuinely to Clara and not to me, the trust would not be backing him. Period. He muttered something under his breath and walked back to his car. That same afternoon, Erin called, not to say sorry, to tell me I was embarrassing the family, making a spectacle of private matters. She mentioned that our mother hadn't eaten, that she was crying. She said it like it was something I should absorb and be moved by. Then she let it slipped that my mother had spoken with an outside attorney. That's when I understood. They weren't going to sit with what they'd done. They were going to reframe it. They were going to come at me sideways and paint me as the unstable one, the one who blew up the family over something small. So I did what they were hoping I wouldn't. I pulled every document I had, every text chain, every signed directive, every log entry, every email spanning the 3 years I had managed the trust alone. I compiled it into a single record and sent a formal letter to our longtime family attorney laying out the situation plainly. The actions I had taken were not punitive. They were a direct response to verbal and emotional harm caused to a minor beneficiary at a family event. Until formal apologies were made and accountability was taken, the trust would remain frozen. I copied everyone, including my mother. A week of silence followed. Then a legal envelope arrived in my mailbox. My mother was officially challenging my position as trustee. She wanted me removed. Her filing claimed I had weaponized the trust in response to a trivial misunderstanding and that my conduct was a pattern of emotional overreach. She had retained an attorney from out of state. The hearing was set for 3 weeks out. They weren't going to say sorry. They had decided to fight. I was fine with that, because I had already made one decision for myself. If they chose their pride over Clara, I would choose clarity over mercy. 3 days before the hearing, I received a call from Mr. Lindell, our family attorney of many years. He said her new law year had been thorough. Subpoenas had gone out for account records, meeting minutes, transaction logs going back 3 years. They were constructing a narrative of misuse.
He said it calmly. I said, "Good. Let them look."
Because I knew exactly what they'd find. Organized records, documented decisions, signed approvals on every single move I had made. What they didn't know was that my father had asked me, years before he got sick, to keep a private archive. His fear was never taxes or litigation, it was them. He said it plainly once, that the same people who would weep at his funeral would be tearing each other apart before the flowers wilted.
He wasn't wrong. I went to the back of my closet and brought out the fireproof box. Inside was an old USB he had given me.
One folder, labeled contingency. Inside that folder were handwritten memos scanned into PDFs, several emails, and one notarized addendum. I had not thought about the addendum in years. I opened it, dated 8 months before his first stroke. In his own words, "If Rachel is ever challenged or removed as trustee, it is my explicit and final wish that she be granted full authority to dissolve the trust entirely. If they come for her, they lose everything. Signed, witnessed, filed. I said nothing to anyone. I waited. The morning of the hearing I wore all black. Not to make a point. I just wanted to. My mother was already seated at the opposite table when I arrived. Navy blazer, pearl earrings. The posture of someone attending a formal occasion rather than someone attempting to strip her daughter of financial authority. Derek sat behind her. I noticed Sandra wasn't there. Perhaps even she had the sense to stay home. My mother's attorney presented his version of me, an emotionally reactive woman who had torched a multi-generational trust because her feelings were hurt. I sat quietly. When it was my turn, I placed a thick binder on the table. Every date,
Every
screenshot, every log, every signed directive. The judge worked through it slowly. Then I submitted the addendum. Her attorney objected immediately, said it was newly introduced evidence. I said it wasn't new. It had simply been waiting until someone forced the situation that required it. The judge accepted it. He read it carefully. My attorney had already reached the notary and had a written statement ready to verify. 5 minutes later, it was over. The judge ruled that my conduct had fallen well within the legal parameters of the trust. And more than that, that I now held the confirmed authority to dissolve the trust entirely if I chose to exercise it. I watched my mother's face when she heard that. She was not someone who lost often. She was definitely not someone who had ever lost everything at once, but I wasn't finished. Outside on the courthouse steps, Derek caught up to me. He looked like someone running a temperature, all clenched jaw and hard eyes. Said I was going to destroy the family's future. Said I was acting out of spite. Said our father would have been ashamed of what I was doing. I told him that our father had written that clause precisely because he had seen this coming. He had known clearly what they were. And now so did I. That night, I began the paperwork to dissolve the trust. I didn't take a single dollar of it for myself. I had an independent firm freeze everything pending full review. Every monthly payment, every property subsidy, every loan guarantee stopped. Indefinitely. I redirected one thing only, Clara's education account. I doubled it, added a therapy fund, a housing provision, and a long-term care reserve, all secured under her name alone. Untouchable, because they may have laughed at her once. But now they were the ones with no idea what had already been decided. 2 weeks. After the hearing, Erin's property appeared in public sale records. She didn't call me. I had alerts set on the county filings. My father's old lake house, the one she had quietly converted into a permanent home for herself and her kids. Even though the agreement had always been that she would handle the upkeep, the trust had been quietly subsidizing the taxes and maintenance for years without her ever asking who was covering it. When that stopped, the county sent the notice directly to her. She listed it quickly, below market, and moved her family back into a small rental. I later heard from a cousin that her son had been telling friends at school that he was the one who broke Clara at the party. I read that once. I had already removed him from the revised beneficiary structure. Derek's company came apart slowly, then quickly. I knew because someone forwarded me an internal memo in which he told his employees that payroll would be delayed temporarily. Without the trust backing his equipment loans and bridging his quarterly cash gaps, the banks had no patience for him. A UCC lien appeared in the database, then another. 2 supplier lawsuits followed. He never called me. He posted online instead. Vague references to being betrayed by family, never naming me, as though the audience wouldn't be able to piece it together. My mother held on the longest. She had her home, her routines, her social appointments. She had always been somewhat insulated from the mechanical realities of her finances because things had simply always been handled. When the deferred tax subsidies on her property stopped, and the maintenance support dried up, the county letters started. She finally called me. That was the first time since the night she sent that text. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. Her voice was different, not commanding, not aggrieved, just worn. She said she hadn't fully grasped how much had been quietly managed on her behalf. That she had always assumed things would continue to function regardless of how she treated me. She said she knew she should have said something at the party. that she felt ashamed that she hadn't, and that admitting it out loud in that moment felt impossible in front of everyone. Then she said the words I hadn't expected. "Please don't take everything from me." I listened to it twice. I didn't call back, because the truth is this. She took something from me the moment she chose to stand on the side of a laughing room, instead of walking over to her granddaughter. The moment she called me dramatic instead of kneeling down and telling a 9-year-old child that what just happened was wrong, and that she was sorry it happened in a place that was supposed to be safe. Clara never knew the full story. I made sure of that. She just kept going. Therapy, school, drawing, growing. One afternoon, about 6 weeks after the party, she came to find me in the living room while I was reading. She looked at me and said clearly, without hesitating, "Can I show you what I made?" No stammer, no pause. Just a question. And I realized then that they had lost more than money. They lost her. 3 months after the party, a letter arrived from my mother. Not a text, not a voicemail. A handwritten letter in an envelope with slightly unsteady cursive that looked older than I remembered her being. I left it on the kitchen table for 2 days before I opened it, not because I was afraid of what was inside. I just needed to be certain I was reading it clearly and not looking for something that wasn't there. She opened with a memory. She wrote, about the time Clara was 4 and kept pronouncing butterfly as butterfly, and how everyone in the room had thought it was charming. She said she had not thought about that in years. She wrote that she realized she had let too many small moments pass without stopping to consider what they meant to Clara. Then she wrote something I hadn't anticipated. She said Adam had stopped speaking to her entirely and blamed her for everything that followed, that Aaron was on medication, that the family group chat had gone completely quiet, that she sat on her porch some evenings and tried to trace the exact moment things had gone irreparably wrong. Then the part that stayed with me, she wrote, I didn't feel like I was doing anything wrong in that moment. That's what frightens me most, because now I look back and wonder how many other times I stood on the wrong side of something and never even noticed. She closed by saying she missed Clara, that she wished she had done the one thing a grandmother is supposed to do, which is protect her, and that if I chose never to speak to her again, she would understand that. I folded it carefully and placed it back in the envelope. I didn't cry. I didn't feel like I had won anything either. I just felt finished. Because for the first time, someone in that family had understood that none of this was about the money or the accounts or the legal filings. It was about a little girl standing at the edge of a yard at her own birthday party, completely still, staring at the ground, while the people who were supposed to love her most laughed at her voice. No guilt can walk that back. No letter can. I didn't call my mother. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened a new account. Not a trust. Something smaller. Something only mine and Clara's. I named it after something she said to me once in the car on the way home from therapy, when I asked her how she was feeling about her progress. She thought about it for a moment, then said, I go slow, but I still have a lot to say. That's the name of the account. That's our future. And as for the rest of them, they lost access to Clara, to me, and to every resource they had taken for granted their entire lives. And the hardest part for them to sit with wasn't the frozen accounts or the court ruling or the liens filed against Derek's company. It was realizing that the one person they had always assumed they could dismiss without consequence was the one person who had been holding every single key. Every single key.